Hello, goddesses. Today we have Heather, goddess from Australia, and she speaks truth, goes even beyond truth, and speaks nothing but Spruth. And what is this Spruth magic? We will get to learn from her. So welcome, Heather. Welcome to our show. Welcome to Planet Aphrodite with Meenal. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, and thank you for the opportunity to
How are
join the
you?
goddesses from around the world.
How are
I'm
you?
well, thank you. Very well, thank you.
So Heather, what we'll do is we go back in our journey. You take us back to our journey where your thought process, your self-love process, your Spruth process was still not formed, or was maybe on the other side. I don't know. So I would like to hear the story, how things were earlier, and then how did you find it, and then what miracle happened in your life. So that will be our process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I don't know whether you have a saying in India, walking on eggshells.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that saying? Do you relate to that?
No, I have heard it in English, but not in.
Okay.
Yes.
It's like when you're around people that you're really uncertain of what the reactions are going to come back at you. So it's like constantly walking with trepidation or a bit of fear or a bit of anxiety,
Right.
Because you don't know what's going to crack, you don't know what's going to break, what's going to shatter. Slightest sound, the slightest movement, and so we can start to sort of almost live in fear. Yeah. And it's often around someone. It can be in the workplace, it can be at home, it can be with your friends. I'm sure most of the goddesses will be going, I've been there.
Yeah.
And so even in my business that was happening, and it was my business, and I was like, I had some team members and I was always really uncertain, and it actually affected my mental health quite a lot. And it was crazy when I look back, but I came disempowered because I wanted to speak things, but I didn't know how to. And I was scared that if I spoke it, what the consequences are going to be. And I remember even when we met in India, we had discussions around this. So we often have these wonderful stories that play out in our head about what will happen. And so I transformed my life. I went on a really deep journey of what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a business owner, to be a mother, daughter, to be a goddess. And I wrote my book a couple of years ago, and I called it A Cosmically Juicy Life, because it was just like there were epic, I had aha moments happening all the time, and they were aha moments, and they were epic, and then they went beyond epic. So what's beyond epic? It's like cosmic.
Right.
And then being a woman stepping into being juicy is a pretty cool thing. So it was like a cosmically juicy life. And the tagline was Heather Joy's journey home. And interesting, on a side note, I have some male coaches, some men, who are now telling me I have to get that footprint off because it's bad for my branding. Okay. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So I'd love what your listeners think about, we have to get rid of our story. Yeah. And then I was sitting on the end of my bed, and I was looking at a lot of people had said, how do you transform your life? Because I transformed a lot. And I didn't really know. I was like, I did some embodiment practice. I did some rituals. I explored some tantric. I sold my business, did a few things, And then I was sitting on the end of my bed and literally looked up to the sky and said, hey, help me out. What's my disruptive idea? What am I here to share with the world? And I got an instant download, Spruth, Spruth, Spruth. And I wasn't very gracious because I went, great, what is it? I'm more gracious now. Thank you. And then as I explored it, I went back to my book launch, and this gentleman had come up and said, what's your story about? I'm like, yeah, my first 59 years. And he's like, yeah, but what's the message? I'm like, oh, there isn't one. He's like, yeah, but what's the message? I'm like, oh, go away, go away. Hope, faith. Yeah, but what's the real message? I was like, oh, my goodness. And then sort of dropped in and I sort of grounded, and it was like, permission to speak my truth, because that's what I'd done in the book.
Right.
And then he sort of bristled up and he was like, I have no problems speaking my truth. I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And my body just cringed. I was like, oh, you don't have any problems, do you?
Right.
And then out of my mouth came permission to speak my truth with love and compassion. And I was like, that is what Spruth is. It is when you speak your truth from that grounded place, from being present, for being really honest about what's going on within, and then sharing it and having some discernment. I've learned we need some discernment even when we're spruthing.
Right.
And so with all the changes that occurred in my life, it was always around speaking my truth with love and compassion. And then I could look at where so many things went wrong in my life because I couldn't say anything, because when I said things, it didn't come out right, and it would get misconstrued, and then I just wouldn't want to say it. But when I come from a place of love and compassion for myself
Mm-hmm.
and for the other person, because I honestly believe no one gets up in the morning and decides, I'm going to make life hell for someone else.
Right.
You know,
right. No one
that's
does.
my intention for the day. Like, we
Right.
all get up.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we all get up and we go, okay, I'm going to do the very best I can. And
Right.
sometimes that very best, you know, I think, well, it was still the best I could, you know, even if it really was a bad one. It's like, well, if I could have done better, I would have done better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been really interesting for me. And even a couple of years ago, I got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And even with that, it's like, cool, how do I speak with love and compassion throughout this when two beautiful people are choosing not to journey together? How do we manage that? And that's what I kept coming to, because when we speak truth with love and compassion, then our heart's open. And I was listening to a TED talk just yesterday about how compassion keeps our heart open. And then Brene Brown, you heard of Brene Brown?
Yes.
Yeah, so anyone who hasn't heard it, Brene Brown, check her out. She does a lot of research. And compassion is empathy in action. I really like that.
Right.
So then that means that when we're speaking, then we're also speaking from a place of empathy and having that for ourselves and for other people as well.
Okay, now taking this where you are currently, many people are not there. I mean, we are not even fantasizing to be there right now. So if I have to, like, I'm totally a lay person and I'm in this place of maybe not speaking the truth even. I mean, because I'm so concerned and fearful about how will I be taken or, you know, and many a times I'm just sharing what I feel like.
Yes.
I choose to speak truth, but many a times I feel the other person might be offended by it. And sometimes I may offend them even, you know, so it's like, though, you know, it gets extreme at times for me. So I'm just trying to understand, like, how from here, how can I take this journey further? So how would you help goddesses take those baby steps, you know, make it like real bite size so that people like me can do it? Yes.
Yeah. Well, I am you a couple of years ago, and I still am you at times. It's you know, you say I'm doing it all the time. No, I'm human. I don't always get it right.
And that's human, and that's perfectly fine. Like, as long as you're aware and check yourself and do it again, and it's perfectly fine, right?
Yeah, we are. That's one of my big things, is that we are all perfect, and we are perfect in our imperfections of being uniquely you. I mean, uniquely, everyone is so different, I mean, we all have those sameness, but we're all so uniquely different.
Right.
So the first step in, the first thing is to stop and just be really, no, go back a step. First thing you do is have to be really safe.
Really safe.
Right. So this starts really safe. So doing this is being really safe. So you start this journey on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily go do it in public straight away. You can.
Okay.
But the first thing is to give yourself permission to be really honest, just with yourself.
Wow.
Just with yourself.
That's
right?
deep when I think about it. Like just giving yourself permission to be honest to yourself. Many a times we think truthfulness or honesty is what you tell others, but most of the times we are lying to ourselves, you know, like I think I cheat myself the most than the word, you know.
And we do. Around the world, goddesses do. And it's everyone. We're talking here with goddesses. And like at the time, I was seeing a psychiatrist for 15 years and suffering depression and anxiety and having all sorts of treatment things. But I look back, there were things that I never told him. Well, also what we often do is we think we're protecting other people.
Okay. That they are not judged or, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that they're not judged. We're also protecting ourselves. We think we're protecting ourselves. So one of the big things is that I thought I was protecting someone else, someone that I love dearly.
Right.
And then way down, like 15, 17, 18 years later, one of my doctors said to me, "Oh, you're being bullied." And it was just like this epic, like, whoa, I am.
And this is not your psychiatrist doctor, or is some other doctor?
No, this was my in Australia we call them our GP,
general
practitioner.
Yeah. Okay.
Or it would be MD if you're in the US.
In India, also.
And it was just this most profound moment of like, and I was so excited because it was like, oh my goodness, that's what I've been covering up. I've been covering up because I'm trying to protect someone. Yeah. Then I took it a step further because my lawyer would say that I was bullied. And I would say I gave away my voice, my dignity, my power because I couldn't speak.
Right.
So then we had two people who simply didn't know how to communicate. And so then things that came out, they seemed to come out wrong, and then I didn't know what to say, and then you don't want to make anything worse, so then nobody says anything, but then little barbs come out. We all live, I don't know anyone who doesn't live this at some stage. And the thing was that I hadn't given myself permission to be radically honest, to be real just with myself and go, this is really hurting. This is not working.
I feel you. Yeah. Something in my heart, I can feel you, you know, like it's so tough. And at the time, it's so real because you love that person, you know, you just love that person.
Yeah.
And you love with the energy that you are living in, you know, it still becomes your comfort zone. Even if you're not speaking up, you know, it's causing you pain, but still that's your comfort zone. And you don't want to break that shell, you know, it's like a cycle.
Yes. Yeah, but it's also there's fear. There's also, it's fear. So it is a comfort zone, but it's also fear because what it does is sets up a fight and flight response going on all the time. But I can see it very clearly in friendships, in family, in business, this constant not saying things. So now I can actually feel the energy when I'm talking with someone, the energy of, it may not be a lie, but the untruth or the energy of the unspoken that's palpable. I'm like, okay, what's going on here now? Because I can feel that energy. Right. But in the first place, it really is a permission space to be real with yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the next early steps is, get out the mirror and sit in front of the mirror or your telephone with your video and your camera and just look at yourself and take a moment to be really, really loving, knowing you're safe. Because that's the thing, you could do it walking down the street, but you probably run into something, get run over or something. So it's
Not
be
a great
really
idea.
safe.
Yeah. Stay safe.
We want to be safe.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Yeah.
And then it's be really honest with yourself about what your thoughts are and what your feelings are. And so with our thoughts, we're so programmed at the moment. Most people I know is, I'm fine. It's good. It's great. It's the standard things, because we don't want anyone to know that they're not. But also on some level, things are okay. On some level, things are okay. But it's like, but what runs beneath the water? And if we're not addressing that, it causes dis-ease of mind, dis-ease of body, all the sabotage stuff that we go on, that we just sort of let it get swept along. Yeah, as opposed to stopping and being really honest and going, well, this isn't working, or this bit's working and that bit's not working. How can we move forward? So as soon as we get to be really honest, and a lot of stuff can come up. So, it's reaching out and seeking, and you don't have to do it on your own. A lot of it I did on my own, and I'm like, nah, don't do it on your own. Get some help. Get someone else on board, and preferably someone who's objective. Yeah. Because often if we get someone who knows us and loves us, that doesn't necessarily help. And then to be really honest with our feelings. And I have clients and they're like, I'm like, what are you feeling? They're like, don't know. And that was me. My doctors or my friends would say, what do you feel? And I'm like, yeah. So I know a lot of goddesses, it's like, one thing you feel is often when you're in a deep journey is sad. Another thing is grief. Another thing is numb. Because if we've got all this stuff going on and we're never honest about it, then we just keep shoving it down inside. Yeah. And our numbness, it's called a numbness bar. It's like the numbness bar just keeps rising. Right. So then one of the easy things, one of the things that makes it easy, there's a body of work and it's playing with like anger, sadness, fear and joy. Okay. So if you've got to pick one of them, anger, sadness, fear and joy. Okay. And everything's an extrapolation of that. So are you angry? Are you sad? Are you scared? Or you're joyous? And then that can go a bit deeper. If you're angry and sad, then that is what depression can look like. Mm-hmm. If you're sad and scared, that's the feeling of isolation, of loneliness. When you're carefree, you get to a point where you just don't care about anything, then that's joy and fear. You've got this heightened thing of like, whoa, whatever, I'm going to jump out of airplanes, ride motorbikes, do crazy things, doesn't matter. Right. And then there's one, and it's got a German name, but it's when you mix anger and joy. Mm-hmm. It's like meeting the devil. It's like, I don't care about anyone. And it's a very addictive, like, ugh, that's a crazy one. And then what I realized recently, if we mix anger and fear, for women, that's hysteria. Okay. And so I'm curious about what the goddesses think around this, because men just get angry. They don't get hysterical. They don't mix their emotions. Right. They just get angry. Yeah. And then they don't understand. And women often don't get angry. We get hysterical. Right. And it's not just gender-based, but I know, you can get hysterical. And it's a very different energy. So, and it can be confusing for people because it's like hysteria is very different to anger. So one of the things is, again, you make sure you're really safe.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not ready to look in the mirror and be that loving and compassionate for yourself, then that's cool. Just eyes closed, wherever, but walking somewhere safe, somewhere where you can be really honest about where you're at. And then what are the thoughts going through your head? Not the ones that you tell, the general, everybody, I'm fine. It's being really honest and loving and compassionate with what's going on. And then what are you feeling? So one is anger, sadness, fear, joy, or the mixture. And then the other is, where are you feeling in your body?
Okay.
Because your feelings aren't in our head. It's like, I'm really tight in my shoulders, and my tummy's always tuning, and my left knee's killing me. Like, actually, where you feel in our body. And when we've sort of gone through that process, or through those stages of knowing, like starting to be honest and know yourself and admit to yourself, it's that permission. I was in this relationship and I was really unhappy, but most of the time it was like, it's fine. Or for me, the only time I would admit I was unhappy was when I was drunk.
Mm-hmm. Because
and
then
Australia,
your fear thing, that shell thing was gone and all the inhibitions gone. And then you could actually touch base with your real feelings.
Yeah. And the crazy thing in Australia, because alcohol's, a very social, it's a big part of culture in Australia. For other countries, there are different things, but it's whatever takes that inhibitions away. And then the crazy thing was, that would be when I would be drunk, but I would also be very vulnerable, and I'd say, I'm really, really unhappy. And I would get told, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And I'd go, yes, I am. And they'd say, no, you're not. It's just the alcohol. And I'd say, no, this is the only time I can be really honest.
Right.
I'm really hurting. And they'd go, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And then I'd get told I have to stop drinking. They were absolutely right. I needed to stop drinking. But that thing about being heard, and again, if we're not in a really grounded space, when we're saying things, it's not going to be heard the same as when you're in a heightened space or spaced out or drunk or something like that. So now I don't have to get drunk to say how I'm feeling, which is much better. And then comes the discernment of speaking to someone else. And one of the higher levels is to be able to say to someone, I want to be witnessed, or I want to be validated. I want empathy. I want sympathy. To actually ask.
Wow.
And I didn't grow up being taught, to ask when I wanted to ask much, let alone when I wanted to speak to someone. Most people I know aren't taught the skills of like, okay, I really want to make a time to speak with you. Again, working out where you want to have this conversation. And then the big thing is the conversation is only about you.
Yeah.
It's only about me.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of, how do I speak to someone else? Because most of someone else is pointing the finger out at someone.
Yeah.
You make me, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, you.
Yeah.
And Spruth is my experience.
Right.
So it's really ownership of, I feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm really scared. I'm over the top, madly in love. I'm so distant. And I know there's a lot of stuff around, there not being the I and things, being the we and the oneness and all that sort of stuff. But if we're not deeply connected to ourselves,
how can we connect to everything
how can
else?
we connect? And we can connect to other things, but then we end up, my experience is, and what I've experienced myself, but also what I know a lot of other people have experienced, then we end up fairly hollow and empty and disconnected. So we're giving from that almost
Hollowness.
shell. Yeah. And then also with that, often we're unable to receive because we're so busy going out there.
And Heather, I mean, few things which you said, like really, you know, had that light bulb moments within me. And one thing which I felt connected, like, and for which this podcast was started, because I used to think this Mother India syndrome, you know, I shared that in my first podcast, like Mother India, like Indian woman, she keeps giving. But more I got exposed to women across the globe, more I realized it's not the Indian problem. It's like nobody is teaching you to love yourself. No one is teaching you to talk about yourself. Nobody, like the thing you said, like when you speak to someone and ask for discernment, and so you're asking for it, like, listen to me, with the validate me, support me, sympathize with me, empathize with me. Don't point your finger at me. This is just how I'm feeling. I'm just letting it out. You know, it's basically my conversation with myself, and I want you to witness and observe it. So just having that permission, or having someone who understands this, you know, I mean, I feel like we are like, the whole culture has to be built around this. Like, we create a society which allows you to speak. So good point that you shared was, irrespective of the culture, you know, I feel this connect of more and more women supporting each other, allowing others to speak up for themselves. You know, so like when you were speaking, I'm like, wow, wow, there is so much wisdom pouring. And I'm sure the goddesses would agree that there was so much wisdom. So Heather,
awesome.
So what we do in the show is we ask our guests to give a gem. So this gem is something actionable, you know, like just one action step that they can take to just, you know, put their beak on that eggshell inside so that it breaks, you know, and they can come out. So just one gem that you feel would be helpful for our goddesses.
So if I wrap it up, one of the things that we often don't have and we're not taught is boundaries. And so one of the things is, and then we don't speak them either. You know, that yes, no, which no is no until I choose that it's a yes, if I choose that it's a yes, or a yes. So even amongst everything that we've talked about, the biggest gem that I would like people to do is to give themselves time and permission to be really honest. And then from that place, because as soon as this starts, then ultimately when I speak my truth with love and compassion, there are always possibilities. There's always possibilities. When I'm not speaking, then I can journal stuff, I can write stuff, but the putting it out of my mouth and tasting it and feeling it. So even if they're not ready to speak it to someone, even to the mirror, to themselves, then, you know, sitting under a tree, sitting somewhere, again, where they're safe, and just speak out loud from love and compassion what is very real for you. And the most profound thing is when I speak my truth with love and compassion, often what has been locked inside my mind and locked inside my body, when I hear it come out of my mouth, it's no longer my truth.
It's just released.
It's not even my truth. So it's powerful. It's powerful to speak to someone else and to take that time to speak to the person that we need to speak. But sometimes it's just speaking it out. It's like when I spoke about the bullying, that I took my ownership of what I'd done, of what I'd co-created. It was the most liberating experience of my life. Now, I did that knowing I was safe. And being discerning about who I spoke about it with. So that is the gem, to play with this. And, you know, you can start really small, or it may be, you know what, I can't live like this any longer. I need to do something. And it's like, cool. Like, that's exciting. How can you move? Who can help you move forward? Because often we can get stuck on the how.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the how, just like who can help me? Who can help me?
Yeah,
Which goddess
change the letters. Yeah.
Which goddess out there is like sitting there waiting to hold your hand if you need it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And when you are ready to ask for help appears. You know, people are there. People are basically good people. Like, we all are good souls, right?
Yes.
People always
Absolutely.
want to help each other, and you know, so I believe when you are ready to share your story, somebody's there to support you, you know. So how do I start that process? Because unless I have love and compassion for myself, I will not speak with love and compassion.
Well, that may not be the case, because often what we can do is, it's very easy to speak with love and compassion for the other person.
Others. Yes.
And then so for many, it is like, a lot of the goddesses may or may not have traveled. But if you're on an aeroplane, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself. You know, you get on the plane, it's like, put the oxygen mask on yourself, because then you can help others.
Yeah.
And around the world, women often are so busy caring for everyone else that they don't care for themselves. And then again, that's a permission space for many. It's like, okay, permission to be tender to myself, permission to be gentle with myself, permission to be nurturing, caring. It's for some people, it's like almost drawing a line in the sand and going, okay, you know, it's me time. Now, with that, if our behavior changes a lot, there can be a lot of judgments going on from people around us. But at the same time, there's a recognition inside, like, how's she doing that? Like, it's like you become the trailblazer. Like, you become the role model of just saying no. You know, someone says, oh, you know, can you do this or whatever? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
And
it's perfectly fine. No is a complete sentence.
And so no can, you know, saying no can be one of the most loving and compassionate things that you can do.
Right.
Being angry, because anger is our boundaries, anger is our clarity, anger is our focus. So if it's just very clear, not out at someone, but being angry is a life force. And anger, sadness, fear, joy, they're all neutral. So it's like, you know, kick in a bit of anger, or allow that sadness to flow, or recognize that fear that's going on, or even that joy space. You know, as children, a lot of children get excited, really happy, and it's like, don't be too much, settle down. It's like, okay, how about, you know, you do let yourself be joyous and laugh, or be sad and cry, or stomp your feet, or shake with fear, or whatever. So it can go back to those really small things. And then sometimes it's like, okay, what opens your heart? So you think of something what opens your heart, and it can be, you know, a flower, a piece of art, a child, a loved one. And then it's like, open your heart, and then have a quick look in the mirror, and it's like, oh, how open is my heart to me? Okay. So it may be starting with something else that opens our heart.
Okay.
To then go, yeah, okay, cool, I can receive too.
Thank
Baby.
you. That was nice. And that was very practical, Heather, because many a times we get a lot of these knowledge and we cannot connect with it. We don't know how to practice it. Maybe it works for her. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe, you know, it's for
someone who's
way
ahead.
It's for some guru or whosoever, but not for me. Maybe, you know, she doesn't know me. She's not from my religion. She's not from my culture. She's not from my country. What does she know about? She doesn't know my family. She doesn't know my husband. You know, we can have all kind of stories in our head.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
Basically we are human beings, you know, we are basically
Yep.
a body around the soul. So that's what my belief is. And so thank you so much for simplifying it, you know, and making
Awesome.
it digestible. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's brought us here sharing with the goddesses around the world. So that's a beautiful thing.
Right. You just don't know like how one conversation can take you, you know, like where all it can
Yeah.
go. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the power of
Amazing.
speaking up, right? That's the power of
It
stepping
is.
out of your comfort zone, meeting new goddesses, talking to them, learning, be open, and loving yourself a little bit more every day.
Every day. That's great advice.
Yes, that's what I believe in. Like just
Yeah.
love yourself a little bit more
Just
every
a
day.
little, a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit more, you know.
Just start somewhere, and then
Yeah.
you can do leaps and bounds. But
Yeah.
start. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I'm enjoying that energy, and I want the whole world to just drown in the self-love thing.
Love it.
Be ready to own up your truth. I'm sure somebody will appear. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you have the mirror exercise, you have the journaling exercise, you have that thing.
Yeah.
You can start somewhere. So the whole beauty lies in starting small, starting, you know, just taking that first
just
step.
one step.
Just one step. Yeah, that's where the magic lies. That's where the magic lies. Right, right.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Heather. It was such an
Thank
honor. And I would like the goddesses to follow you, hear more spruce from you, more word of wisdom from you, because I know this has been a lot of churning and retention and practicing. And then, okay, what else is Heather saying? So how can they connect with you? So what are your social media handles that you would like to share?
Okay, so Heather Joy Basset is my Facebook. I've got LinkedIn. I'm not very active. I've got a website. I'm not active there. Mm-hmm. I've got Instagram. I'm not active there. So the only place that I really am active at all is on Facebook. So it's just under my name, Heather Joy Basset. And I've got an 8-minute clip. I think it's around 8 minutes on my Heather Joy Basset speaker coach, which is my page. So if someone wants to go, if they want to check out again, how do I do that? They can come back and listen here. Or if they want to share it with someone else where it's not so goddess related, which is fabulous here. But if you've got someone else that you want to share it with, then there's an 8-minute thing and you can take your friends or your family and go, hey, heard about this. What about we give this thing a go? And use the story as a way to introduce it to someone that you want to speak your truth with.
Oh, that's
that
interesting.
You want to speak with love and compassion. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So check her out on her Facebook page and connect with her. Thank you so much for your time. It was such a pleasure and honor to have you on our planet.
Pleasure's all mine as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much.